want to do with storytelling is think of who is the audience, what attention am I trying to get, how am I trying to influence them, and utilize that concept of storytelling to get the audience's attention. And it could be as simple as the audience is one person. It could be an investor. Welcome to the Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast, your go-to resource for navigating the world of entrepreneurship.
Storytelling is a powerful tool in the entrepreneurial world. It goes beyond mere words. It shapes brand identity, fosters customer engagement, and influences organizational culture. In this episode, we'll explore how entrepreneurs can harness the art of storytelling to create lasting impact.
The Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast is your ultimate launchpad for igniting ideas and skyrocketing your entrepreneurial dreams. Tune in, buckle up, and let's unleash the entrepreneurial spirit within. Your two hosts will be Professor Gary Palin and serial entrepreneur Ryan Budden.
Hello, Ryan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing brilliantly. What about you, Professor Palin?
Keeping busy as always, just chugging along, trying to go forward. Ryan, today I want to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. It's utilizing storytelling in entrepreneurship. Now, storytelling is a very powerful tool if used correctly in entrepreneurship, and it goes beyond words. You can use it to shape your brand identity, foster customer engagement, influence organizations, investors, etc. Basically, how I'm viewing storytelling, it's using words and actions to reveal elements or images of a narrative while encouraging the listener's imagination.
We all know somebody that does this very well. As soon as you mention storytelling, I at least have somebody that immediately pops to mind that exemplifies that trait.
Was that me?
Very oftentimes, actually, jokes aside, it is you. You do that extremely well to highlight points.
I use it for several components. I'd like to break it down on how I do it. It's interactive, so this two-way interaction between the storyteller and the listener. I use language as an art. Most people think of arts like dance and paintings and music. You can paint pictures with language. You have to paint a picture with language to create that image. Combine that with action. So storytelling is not just vocal. You can have physical movements. You have gestures that will incorporate your story. And with that, you're presenting a narrative that you can utilize a sequence of events or characters to create that image.
Yeah, absolutely. We often think of storytelling as just the words coming out of your mouth. The best storytellers are animated. They use their environment and their body to highlight certain points or emphasize things.
I'd like to give you a quick example of one I used many years ago. I was in Ireland probably 10 years ago. I was speaking about entrepreneurship education, and I wanted the audience to garner their attention on why they should listen to me about entrepreneurship education. So I walked up and I said, the year was 1981. Temperature was 5 degrees below Fahrenheit. I had just graduated from college and started a business. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. When I woke up, I turned on the faucet and ice chunks came out of the faucet. And I thought, oh no, the pipes are freezing. The pipes are going to burst. So I went under the double wide of which I lived. If people aren't familiar with the term double wide, it's like a trailer, two of them side by side. And I was underneath with a hairdryer trying to keep the pipes from freezing. And at that point, I'm lying under there shivering. And I realized, one is, I don't know what I'm doing in starting this business. But number two, I vowed to myself, I will figure out how to drive a business. And also, I vowed someday I will go back to academia and introduce entrepreneurship education, which barely existed in those days. What I was trying to do is paint that picture, and people could see what picture I'm freezing under there, shivering with the hairdryer like an idiot. I led with the year was 1981, so I forget what it was at that point. 3 decades now, we'd be talking 4 decades. I was trying to say, I've been thinking about this very deeply for many, many years. This is why you should listen to me. And I use that story to capture the audience's attention of why should we pay attention to this guy in the front of the room.
I like it. It's also a genesis story, right? How you originally got into it. Most people in entrepreneurship have their own genesis story. So it immediately equates you to something that they can identify with.
Using an origin story is very, very powerful to garner people's attention. You can also use customer stories. You can use brand stories. There's all different twists to that. What you want to do with storytelling is think of who is the audience, what attention am I trying to get, how am I trying to influence them, and utilize that concept of storytelling to get the audience's attention. And it could be as simple as the audience is one person. It could be an investor.
Right. Yeah, you can't discount that. The audience could be one or an entire room of people, or in this case, I'm sure it was 1,000 or more.
Definitely. And I've used storytelling in all different components, in both in presentations. I've used storytelling in front of as many as 2,000 people when I was speaking. I use it in the classroom all the time. I use it with one-on-one communication. I like to paint that visual picture. It's more impactful than just walking up and saying, my name is Professor Gary Palin, and I want to talk about blah.
I also like how in that example you've just gone through, it's the first thing you led with. You didn't start with something that kind of turned people's brains off. And oftentimes the hi, how's everybody doing today? My name is the signal for people's brains to go to sleep. You immediately started with the story, and you probably got them captivated for the rest of what you had to say.
You're correct. That was the very first words out of my mouth. And I specifically started with the year was 1981, and I said it with great enthusiasm and excitement. That's a different way to open a presentation. I could see people were looking at me. Okay, where is he going?
Right. This is not the normal academia presentation.
I could give hundreds of examples of storytelling, but that one's a fairly compelling one, simple to understand. You want to be able to craft your narrative, describe the elements in a compelling story about your entrepreneurial journey in this particular case. I like to use conflict, and the conflict in this particular term was 5 degrees below Fahrenheit. That's a conflict that I was facing.
You were literally battling the weather at that point.
Yes. A resolution within the story, how challenges were overcome. And you have to be very authentic when you're telling the story, because if you come across as fake, then that will kill the meaning or the purpose of using storytelling to capture attention.
Without a doubt, if there's not a sense of the person being genuine, you do lose people at that point.
For those who aspire to go higher in their entrepreneurial journey, we've got something just for you. Coming up next.
Are you ready to unlock your entrepreneurial potential? Introducing the Janus Entrepreneurial Report, your personalized roadmap to success. In just minutes, discover your unique strengths and areas for growth. Whether you're a seasoned business pro or just starting out, the Janus Entrepreneurial Report will help you identify and leverage your entrepreneurial tendencies. Don't wait, visit Prospirit.com and start your journey to success today.
Now, let's dive back into our journey of entrepreneurial insights. I encourage people to utilize storytelling and play with it. Think in terms of your personal experiences and tell a story about yourself. I think it's the easiest way to go about it. Now, it's not the only way. You can use third-person narratives, et cetera, with storytelling as you get better with it. But to start, it's easier to talk about yourself, and the memory is much clearer, and it's easier to be natural and authentic when you're talking about yourself.
Without a doubt. I know that's probably intimidating for some of the people listening that don't have this wealth of experience that they can draw on. I just encourage people that we all have our own wealth of experience. And if you think about how to highlight a problem, not necessarily, what is a great story for me to tell, but think about the problem and then how something that you've ever faced relates to that problem, I think a little more things might come to mind.
So what applications of storytelling have you experienced or done yourself?
Telling your personal story is the biggest one. When you meet new investors, new teammates, if you're on a new project, how do you highlight your capabilities in a fun way? Is storytelling. You're going to at some point be asked to tell about yourself. How do you make that interesting rather than just skipping through some accolades that have gotten you to this point in your life? Is it a huge missed opportunity for storytelling? You can get the job done by just listing some accolades or where you went to college, what you've done since then, that type of stuff. But if you tell it in a story, it will be memorable to the people that ask you the question, and you'll probably make some friends or at least become a little more friendly presenting at that point.
It's memorable if you tell a good story, because how many times have you heard me when I'm introducing you to someone else tell the story of the first time you ran into my class at the last second?
Without a doubt. Most times you introduce me, and I think most people do remember that.
I won't get into the whole story. It's in our podcast several times, I'm sure. But I concluded with, as I was watching this scene unfold, I said to myself, that young man is an entrepreneur. And that was the message I was trying to get across when I'm introducing you to people.
That's exactly right. And that's the people that remember it. Also that you were a professor, which is important, and I was your student, which is important to our relationship.
You were wearing mismatched clothes, by the way, in that story.
I have no doubt. It was probably trendy at the time, in my defense, but it definitely wouldn't hold up to modern day fashion trends.
I think it was laundry day, and that was the last clean clothes you had.
College for me every day was laundry day.
Laundry day, for people listening not familiar, that's very typical with students, is the last clothes they have. They put it on, it tends to be mismatched, and they said, I better do the laundry tonight.
Yeah, the bottom of the pile.
Storytelling is incorporated in much of the fabric of a company. I think of Patagonia, their outdoor clothing and gear brand. And this story revolves around protecting the planet and encouraging conscious consumers. That has become the essence of when people think of Patagonia. Very often they think of that as a component of their brand, and they've built a very loyal customer base using those values, which they are able to transmit through this story.
Without a doubt. One of their biggest ad spends was an ad that said, don't buy this jacket. And they went over the reasons that you should only ever buy one, and that one jacket should last you a lifetime.
We'll make this a quick episode. Do you have any final comments with storytelling before we conclude?
If you're at a very early stage in your career and you absolutely don't have a wealth of background to draw on, another common technique to create these stories is using what are called parables. These common stories that have become folklore to highlight certain points. By familiarizing yourself with a few, they often play very well into future things that you're doing.
And I just encourage people to play with storytelling. If you've never utilized it, see how it works out, have fun with it. And I'm pretty sure if you continually try it and you start to hone it, you'll see some tremendous impact.
One final note, what got me into storytelling, and I just have to give a shout out to the organization because I think they do amazing things. There's an organization called Toastmasters. They hold dinners or events all around the country. They're free to attend. It's people practicing storytelling. There's incredible people getting up for the first time. If you're really nervous about getting into this, it's a great way to go listen to people and get some advice.
Toastmasters is a great resource for people that are looking to hone and develop their speaking skills.
An amazing organization.
Well, on that note, let's get entrepreneurial.
Let's get entrepreneurial.
As we wrap up another episode of the Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast, we extend our gratitude for your presence and attention. Your dedication to the entrepreneurial spirit fuels our passion for creating this podcast. Check out profspirit.com to discover resources and courses designed specifically for innovators like you. Stay on the cutting edge by following us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and other platforms as it is released. Until then, keep the entrepreneurial flame burning.